I couldn't pay for my own date. Not because I was broke, because my signal dropped at exactly the wrong moment. QR code up, order done, and then the payment screen just sat there spinning. Waiter waiting, date watching. So I did what anyone would do. I went for my wallet. He looked at the cash and shook his head. Digital only, and the look on his face, like I just handed him something that didn't belong in the room. She paid. I sat with that for a moment. I'd been there long enough to think I understood the system. That dinner was a good reminder that I didn't, because this wasn't really about bad timing or a weak signal. It was about a system so completely woven into daily life that it had stopped leaving space for anything outside itself. Over 30 days inside that system, the more interesting questions only started once the friction disappeared. Not how the technology worked, but what it quietly changed, what it assumed, what it required. That dinner was just the entry point. To understand how that dinner even happened, we need to talk about how China evolved into a fully cashless society. China never developed a strong credit card culture the way America did. For most of the 20th century, the country ran almost entirely on cash. Banks existed, but personal credit wasn't woven into everyday commerce the way it was in the West. Most people didn't carry cards, they carried bills. Then smartphones arrived, and the timing was everything. Between roughly 2008 and 2015, smartphone adoption in China expanded at a scale and speed that's difficult to fully appreciate from the outside. Hundreds of millions of people came online for the first time, not through a desktop computer or a bank branch, but through a phone. And two platforms were ready to meet them there. WeChat launched in 2011. Alipay had already been operating since 2004, initially as a payment layer for Alibaba's e-commerce platform. But it was the mobile era that transformed both of them from useful tools into infrastructure. By 2014, WeChat had introduced a feature that sent digital red envelopes, a traditional Chinese New Year gift, through the app. It went viral. Hundreds of millions of people linked their bank accounts to participate. In the space of a single holiday season, an enormous portion of the population was suddenly set up for mobile payments. That moment is often cited as the tipping point, and after it, the network effect took over. More users meant more vendors adopted it. More vendors meant more users needed it. Within a few years, QR code payments had spread from major cities to rural markets, street corners, even the woman selling steamed buns outside a subway station at 7 in the morning. What's worth noting is that this didn't happen because of a single government mandate. It spread because it was genuinely more convenient. And once the infrastructure reached a certain density, using cash started to feel like the harder option. By the time I arrived, it wasn't just the easier way to pay. It was essentially the only way. So now you're probably wondering, how the hell do you get started? Well, luckily, you really only need two apps, WeChat Pay and Alipay. That's it. I'd recommend setting up both. Not because vendors only accept one or the other, honestly most places take either, but if one app is glitching or unresponsive, you want a fallback. If you only have one and it goes down, you're essentially locked out. Having both is just your safety net. Personally, I ended up using WeChat Pay for the majority of my transactions, and the setup is easier than you think. You open the app, tap your profile at the bottom, and go into Pay and Services. From there, you'll see Money on the left and Wallet on the right. Hit Wallet, find the bank card section, and add your foreign credit card from there. Once it's linked, every time you scan a QR code, it handles the currency conversion automatically. You get a notification, the charge goes through, done. The whole transaction takes maybe 3 seconds. Both apps let you authorize payments with either Face ID or a 6-digit PIN. Every transaction, whether it's a street food order or sending money to a friend, runs through the same authentication layer. The security is built directly into the payment flow, which matters more than it sounds when you realize how much of daily life runs through these two apps. One thing worth knowing before you go: any transaction over 200 RMB will most likely trigger a 3% processing fee. And here's why that catches people off guard. It applies even if your credit card normally waives foreign transaction fees. The reason is that you're not processing payments through your card directly. You're going through Tencent or Alibaba, WeChat, and Alipay's parent companies. The fee originates there, not at your bank. I won't pretend to fully understand the technical mechanics behind it, but that's what I observed firsthand. First trip, I had what seemed like a grace period, no charges for roughly the first month. Went back just a couple weeks ago, and that 3% was showing up consistently on anything over 200 RMB. Just something to factor in before you land. And that's worth understanding. These aren't just payment tools. Think of it like if Zelle was built directly into iMessage, so instead of opening a separate banking app, you just send money through a text conversation. That's essentially what WeChat does. Split a dinner, pay back a friend, send money to family, all inside the same app you're already using to message people. The payment layer is invisible because it lives inside communication. Nothing in America works quite like that yet. And here's something I didn't fully appreciate until I was already there. I stopped bringing my wallet entirely. In America, I grab my wallet every single time I walk out the door without even thinking about it. In China, I just didn't need it. My phone was everything. And honestly, it wasn't even just phones. I'd see kids out there with nothing but a smartwatch, WeChat, or Alipay set up on the wrist, moving through the day without a phone or a wallet anywhere in sight. That's when it really hit me how deep this thing actually runs. Once you're set up, daily life here becomes genuinely seamless. And I mean seamless in a specific way, not convenient in a marketing sense. Seamless in the sense that payment stops being a moment you think about at all. You walk up to a street vendor at 6 in the morning, a laminated QR code is taped to the front of the cart. You scan, confirm, walk away with your food. It takes less time than counting change. But here's the detail I didn't expect. Many of these vendors have a small Bluetooth speaker sitting beside them. The moment a payment goes through, the speaker announces it out loud, the amount confirmed in a calm automated voice. The vendor doesn't check their phone, doesn't look at a screen, they hear it. Payment received. Next customer. It's a small detail, but it stuck with me because it shows how deeply the system has been integrated into the physical workflow of running a business. Restaurants take it further. In many places, you scan a QR code just to see the menu and place your order before you even speak to anyone. Some require full payment before the kitchen starts. The first time that happened, I wasn't expecting it. You scan, you order, you pay, then the food arrives. If the payment doesn't go through, nothing gets made. Convenience stores, transit gates, pharmacies, parking meters, all QR. After a week, I stopped noticing it. After 2 weeks, I started feeling mildly inconvenienced if a payment took more than a few seconds, which tells you something about how quickly your baseline shifts inside a system like this. But there are edges, and the edges are where you learn the most. The date situation was one, a dead signal at the wrong moment, and suddenly the entire architecture that makes daily life frictionless becomes a wall. No manual override, no cash lane. If the app doesn't work, you don't pay. And unlike in America, where that might mean swiping a different card, here your backup options are genuinely limited. This is something I want to be direct about for anyone planning to visit or spend extended time there. Your internet connection is not optional. It is the infrastructure. Without a stable, reasonably fast signal, you're not just inconvenienced, you're functionally locked out of the payment system that runs everything: food, transit, entry to certain venues. The apps need to talk to a server in real time. A slow connection doesn't just make things annoying, it makes you stand there awkwardly at a counter, waiting for a confirmation screen that won't load while a line builds behind you. For foreigners, this is especially important to plan for. Your home carrier's international roaming may not give you the signal quality you actually need. I learned that the hard way before I sorted it properly. The solution I personally used and genuinely recommend is Holofly. It's an eSIM, no physical SIM swap, no dealing with the carrier store when you land. You set it up before you leave, it activates when you arrive, and the connection was consistently fast throughout my entire trip. I'm not sponsored by them. This isn't a paid mention, I just used it, it worked, and for something as operationally critical as staying connected inside a cashless society, I'd rather tell you what actually worked for me than give you a generic recommendation. If you want to try it, I'll leave a link in the description for a small discount. Because here's the bottom line. In a system this complete, your phone and your connection are not accessories. They are your wallet, your transit card, your restaurant menu, and your ability to function in public commerce. Treat them accordingly before you go. Here's something I didn't expect to think about. You can't tip a QR code. Now, China is a tipless culture, and so are many countries around the world. Tipping isn't expected or required because workers are fairly compensated from the start. The gratuity is built into the wage structure, not left to the discretion of the customer. So this isn't a critique of the system, it's just an observation about what changes when both the culture and the infrastructure remove that particular gesture from the transaction entirely. Back home, tipping is physical. You leave something on the table, or you add it at the terminal, or you hand it directly to someone. There's a human exchange in it, a small acknowledgement that passes between two people. That gesture doesn't translate to a confirmation screen. The transaction closes before the moment even exists. What I kept noticing was how the system had quietly reorganized the social texture around money more broadly. The pace of a transaction, the way people move through a market, even something as minor as standing in line feels different when no one is handling cash or waiting for change. When payment is frictionless, everything downstream of payment shifts slightly too, and most people inside the system never notice it happening, because it happened gradually, long before they were paying attention. Every system trades something to gain something else. The efficiency here is real. Small vendors who couldn't afford card terminals now participate fully in the digital economy. Transactions that once required infrastructure now require nothing more than a printed code. But when a system becomes this complete, it also becomes invisible. And that's the part that stays with you. 30 days inside this didn't change my opinion about countries, it changed how I think about systems. That dinner wasn't embarrassing, it was a reminder. What feels normal is only normal until a different system pushes back. And that window, right before something becomes invisible to you, is where you actually learn something. If you want to understand what's actually powering all of this, that's what I'm getting into next. WeChat, the super app quietly powering modern China.